Hey everybody, Matt Siltala here alongside with Dave Rohr. Another fabulous podcast episode, and what we're going to be talking about today is what is the long-term value of networking. Now this is something that is near and dear to my heart, and I know it's near and dear to Dave's heart because if it wasn't for this industry and if it wasn't for networking, this podcast probably wouldn't have happened. We probably wouldn't be friends. And we probably wouldn't have shared a lot of the awesome memories. I look back to all the times that Dave and I have shared, whether it be in Hawaii, whether it be here in Arizona, baseball games, Renaissance fairs, photography shooting, whatever it might be. And so that's what we're going to jump in today about what is the long-term value of networking and how a small to medium business owner can get value in it. And so I'm going to turn the time over to Dave to talk a little bit about it because this topic came up from an article that he read, and a pretty good way of kicking it off for us. So go ahead, Dave.
Yep. And the link, of course, will always be with all of the other links. We're going to have a bunch of links to some of our slideshows as well that we'll get into. But the story that I found was actually shared by one of the founders of Affiliate Summit. And it was about two people that came together from different parts of the world and ended up kind of meeting each other at a networking event or at the show, throughout the show, and then created a business. And it appears that they just sold it earlier this year, 2017.
That's incredible.
So they didn't know each other. One was a developer, one was a person with an idea. They came together and built something and then just sold it. And that's from networking. And, I was just talking to Matt about when we were trying to talk through what we should be covering. I am actually created a Facebook album that's just private for me. I've traveled a lot this year, and everywhere I've traveled, from Germany to Washington, D.C., I have a picture with Matt when we were in two places, Phoenix and earlier this year we were down in Florida.
Yeah.
But I've been having lunches or dinners with some of my friends from PubCon, from SESs, from SMXs, from every kind of local and national, international conference I've been to. I know people all over the world, and it's crazy that at this point I can go to almost any city in the world and ping, email, text, tweet, DM someone I know and go and have lunch with them.
Yeah,
or go and pick their
amazing.
brain, or go and meet their company.
Yeah, that really is something that is pretty phenomenal. Like, I was thinking about that the other day too, because we're planning on a trip to Fiji next summer, and I even, as remote of an island in South Pacific as it is, like, I have people there that I've met from networking and other things. And so one of the other stuff that we talked about, or that we alluded to when we were discussing this, was I'm about to take a road trip to see Matt McGee, one of the chief editors of, or the editor-in-chief of the Marketing Land blogs, the Search Engine Land, and all those from Third Door Media. A lot of people in this industry know him well, but Matt McGee, as well as Andy Bill, are two people that I've met in this industry, and I've ended up we've gone to Hawaii about 4 different times together now. Every time we do a different island, and we're always talking about when we're going to meet up there next. And so these are relationships that just started from me being on a panel, or me introducing myself to one of these gentlemen, or however it might have been, and just becoming friends, just being real with them. And in turn, what that does is each one of these guys, and again, this is just a quick example like you gave, just of one part of it, but just these two people out of probably dozens, if not hundreds of people that I've been networking with over the years of being in this industry. They have sent me business. They have referred people to me. I have given them business. Now, let me ask you something, Dave. Do you think it would be the same if I were brand new in this industry and I went up to, Matt McGee, for example, and I said, hey, would you start referring people to me? Would you start sending people to me? Is that how it works? Do you think that would work out well for me?
Yeah, not so well. Not at all. I've I have two people that anytime someone asks me for PPC, that's just out of my wheelhouse, and they're looking for a consultant. One of my friends that I worked with at a company before just posted something at their new company. And they were like, hey, we need a PPC person to do the e-commerce, and we need this. I immediately dropped two names from people I know. And one of them I've known for, 10 plus years. She was at my wedding. And the other person I've known for probably 7 years now or so. And I only know her because of other people I networked at other things. I've never even, I had no idea who she was. She was at the conference. She knew other people, and that's how I met her. And both people now I've referred quite a few people to over the years now. I'm constantly do. And I know that I think one of them's referred a couple people to me before too.
Yeah, and so, as we're talking about this, I'm trying to think of exactly how we can tie this into the small and medium business owner, and I was thinking of just instances down here. For example, there is a guy in my local area that I became friends with that he actually reached out to me, but he does a lot of AC work, and he's a local AC guy, and here in Arizona that's a big deal. And it was interesting because he reached out to me and we became friends, and then just because of that relationship and him networking, I then said, hey, well, I'm gonna help you out. I'm gonna get you ranked number one for everything. And, if I ever have a AC that breaks or whatever, just because we became good friends, and, if I ever have an AC break, come and fix it or whatever. And he's done that, and we've had this relationship for several years. Now, because of him taking the effort to network with me, because he knew I was in an industry. Now, he didn't come up and say, hey, do some work for me for free. He became friends first, and then he built that relationship with me. And now many, many years have passed, and not only have I helped him rank pretty much for everything that he wants to rank for, and he's busier than he's ever been. Exactly. I've also sent him lots of just other business, and also him knowing what I do. Any business owner that he talks with, or anyone that like, how did you do that? Like, I see you're number one, or you're all over. How do you do that? And boom, he sends them to me. And so it's that, in my mind, is one of the best ways to help small to medium business owners understand this is how. This is how you should do it. Like, don't always go in it for the me. Look at how you could build that relationship, get that trust there, establish that trust, and then grow it and grow beyond that. And so I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
I agree, and I try to take the approach of how can I help you, not how can I help me. Mm-hmm. Anytime there's conferences here in Chicago, I start looking around for where are there after parties, are there before parties, are there networking events, what does it cost to get into them, what are the meetups like. Every so often I'll try different startup meetups, I'll try the insurance meetup, I'll try different meetups that maybe are outside of people I would usually talk to. And there's even one meetup group that is, of course, beer, but I got there and I ended up talking to all these people, and they're like, well, what do you do? What do you do? And I've gone a couple times over the last probably year and a half, and I've only run into that group every so often because everyone's got different things going on, yada, yada. But every so often I'll run into some of those group people, and I actually have a little group of friends at that event type of thing.
Yeah.
And there's different events. I mean, you can go on to any sort of Eventbrite or meetups. It doesn't have to be like, for us, it would be maybe an SEO meetup, but anything within your industry or even one step out of where you can go and network and meet other people beyond who you usually talk to, I think is a good thing.
And I'm glad that you brought that up and the whole idea of events, because that reminded me there was a lady that I helped the other day. She was wanting to get into speaking and more of like like personal development type stuff. And obviously we speak on social media, search engine optimization, paid stuff, things like that. And so it's kind of out of the wheelhouse, but I thought about it and I was like, you're having to get yourself out there. You're having to be on social media. How can you do this better? And what kind of events can I recommend for you? Or, she knows that I'm a speaker, and so she was just trying to get some help. And so I gave her all the normal, like, what to do and how to pitch and the way to pitch and things like that. But when you talked about going to a meetup, that's what made me think of this. I told her, go to one of these local internet marketing meetups like we have here in Arizona. And it may not necessarily be exactly in your wheelhouse, but you might meet other people that are in similar industries that know about conferences within that specific industry that I don't know about it. And lo and behold, she texted me the other day telling me, hey, I went to one of those meetups and I met several people, one of which gave me several good conferences that I should pitch for that I had no idea about. And she asked me about them. She told me what they were, and I can't even remember at this point. But they were ones that I hadn't even heard of that are more specific to what she's wanting to do. And so again, like you said, find those ones that could be similar or kind of in the wheelhouse or in a roundabout way, and look at that opportunity right there. So,
and we probably travel, especially you travel even more than I do, to a lot more conferences than most people. When I was in-house, my goal was to always make one in the first half of the year, one in the second half of the year. And actually, when I had a job offer, the last in-house position I was at, part of my job offer, I had it in writing that my company would send me to 2 conferences a year.
Nice.
Now, of course, when I talked through that with the hiring manager boss at the time, I said, I'm not going to go just to, hang out. I will go with specific questions, and I will come back with answers, even if it's outside of what I'm doing. If our KPC person has something, or if our social team, or if our IT team, or something else, I will go and I will take questions. We can have an entire different topic about that. But I would go with the intent of meeting at least 1 or 2 people new. And, we always go to lunch together. We have our certain friends and our certain groups that we only get to see every so often. So we spend a lot of time. Even now, if I go to a conference, my goal is at least 1 or 2 really good connections, as far as I actually sat down and got to talk to them for a while. I know, I remember their name because I'm really bad with that. I know where they work, what they're doing, some of the problems they're having. I try to get a little bit deeper than just, hey, my name's Dave, what's your name? Oh, your name's Fred, or your name's Sally, or whatever it is. And I try to get a little bit past that initial meeting. And sometimes it takes, especially during a PubCon, multiple days, it helps because you might run into them a couple times. So you might only run into them once.
Yeah.
But I try to go to the networking events and try at least at every little networking event within a bigger conference to try to talk to one new person, to try to get that goal of meeting one new person.
And then, that when we're talking about that, it also reminded me of something else that recently just happened. You and I have a mutual friend that was here in Arizona, John Jordan.
Yeah.
And he and I have been Twitter friends forever, probably, close to a decade. I remember he was one of the first people that I had networked with, and his longtime girlfriend as well. And anyway, so he reached out saying, hey, I'm going to be in Arizona, and, I'd love to go out and do some, photography shooting with you. And so again, networking, we've had that relationship on social media forever. We interact with each other, we're pleasant with each other, we're good with each other. We've never met each other in real life, but because of that relationship, he's like, hey, I want to get together with you and go out and shoot the Milky Way because I'm going to be in Arizona. And so I said, let's do it. And what that did for us, Dave, is we started talking about things that I do, as a company, that our company does, and I learned about stuff that he does, and even stuff that his girlfriend does, and things that I didn't even know about, but different areas where I'm going to be able to help them, and also he knows stuff that we do now that he might be able to refer people to us. And so, again, what's the value? What's the long-term value of networking? That right there. It reminds me of one more thing before I'll be quiet and let you kind of wrap it up. But one of the very first people or clients that I ever had ended up being, I sparked up a relationship with him, and we became good friends, and I helped him. And again, it was one of those deals where, I didn't know what to charge back in the day, and I think he was one of my cheapest paying clients. And I held on to him forever. I think he was like $300 a month. But the reason I did that, and he probably should, in all honesty, I probably should have been charging him about $2,000 or $3,000 a month for what I was doing for him. But the reason that I kept it that way is because one of the people that he referred to me, and again, this was one of my first big clients, before Avalanche Media was even Dream Systems Media, when it was just me before I even started it. Ended up referring us this client that to this day, I went and looked at it in our FreshBooks. We've had this client for probably over a decade now, or I have, and then now the company. But they're credited to about a little under $4 million in revenue.
Oh wow!
So again, that's just from one relationship.
Yeah, we're talking a lot about events, and you kind of segue into the end. Twitter, it's a little bit different these days if you can cut out all the politics and all the crazy stuff otherwise going on.
Yeah, so true.
In its core, when we've been using it for over 10 years, especially in our industry, we have lots of people that we've known. Like Tim Staines I know, and bless his wife's soul, I crash at their house every time I go over to Washington, D.C. And, earlier this year, I made a visit as always. I didn't bring my brother this time, so it was a little bit smaller of a footprint of noise. But I've known Tim. I met him on Twitter, and then I met him once years ago at a conference, and I've always been friends with him. But then I knew Annie Cushing for years on Twitter, kind of like you knew John. And I met her randomly at a conference. And then I happened to be in Philly, and I brought Tim because we were going to see lacrosse. And I was like, well, Annie, we're going to be in town. Are you in town? Yeah, all right. So we ended up meeting up. And I didn't even think about it. We're sitting there at dinner. I was there. I brought another friend that lived in Philly. Tim and Annie are like, oh, hi. And they knew each other from Twitter, and they'd been friends for probably almost 10 years too, but had never met in person.
That's funny.
So it was weird because, like, the other friend I had known for 20 years from, like, up forever, but we'd always just never been able to catch each other, and it had been forever since we even saw each other. So it was, like, weird because it was, like, four people that little bit knew each other. Some people hadn't even met each other in person type thing. And other than me picking a horrible place based on bad luck, it was actually really cool. Just everyone's completely crazy different backgrounds and just kind of how the group knew each other, which was from all sorts of ways through the internet.
Yeah, that's pretty incredible. It makes me reminds me of a story of another common friend between the two of us, Brian LaFrance. So I was at a networking or at a search engine conference, PubCon, and I meet this guy and I find out he's from Arizona, and we start talking. And I think I can't remember if we had connected on Twitter at that point or whatnot, but come to find out, or actually, yeah, we did. We already were friends on Twitter, and then we met at PubCon, and we start talking about in Arizona where we live. Turns out, Dave, we lived in the same neighborhood, like 2 streets away from each other.
And we guys had to go to a conference to meet each other.
And we had to go to a conference to meet each other. And so, that right there, it just shows you what you said, and then that, the 6 degrees of separation and how small of a world the social media makes. And I guess my takeaways in wrapping this up, and then you could share your takeaways, but my takeaways would definitely be, again, for the SMB crowd, do the networking. Go to the events like we talked about. Find some similar interests. Find some similar industry events. Even if it's not completely in your wheelhouse, reach out to individuals, whether it be on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Go out of your comfort zones if you're not comfortable with doing that, but make some relationships. Build some long-term trust with people. And again, I like how, and you'll probably wrap it up with this too, but I like what you said, how you tried to not make it about what you can do for me, but what I can do for you. And you put it so much better than I did. But those would be some of my key takeaways. Again, make those relationships, find people at events, and start networking with them on social. Take it away.
And I live way outside of the city of Chicago, but I still try every month or two. That depends on travel and just how things fall. But I still try to get into the city to some sort of event every month or two. And sometimes they're a complete bust, and it ends up me just going and hoping that there's a good sports game on the local bar as I avoid traffic and then come home. But sometimes they are actually, I really network, or I'll randomly run into people I know and I haven't seen in the city. And sometimes I ran into someone that I used to work for that I'd spent a couple months emailing, and I ran into him at a bar after an event as I was waiting for traffic and I was trying to get food. And it was just like this random thing. I'm like, I just emailed you like a couple weeks ago. And he's like, oh, you did? And so I sat down and I got to meet his whole team from this agency that I was trying to work with. So yeah, I mean, you have to at least try. I know it schedules kids. But look for small local events. Look for maybe one national event, whether it's a conference in your space, or maybe digital marketing, or people are doing some sort of training thing or something. But just try to keep learning and keep getting out there and trying to network. Really, is all I try to say.
Awesome advice, and I like how you ended it there. There's no excuse, especially if the two of us can get out and do it. I know the family life that you have and the kids and how busy they keep you, and then my 3 kids. And so if we could do it, you guys can definitely do it too. But appreciate you guys joining. Hopefully you found this useful. For Dave Rohr, I'm Matt Siltala with Avalanche Media, Dave with Northside Metrics, and we'll come back at you again soon. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.